Okay, so let's dive in. Today we are looking at global markets, and we're going deep with the My Pensions Advisors update. It came out February 27th, 2025.
Okay.
Buckle up, because it is a wild ride.
Mm.
Asian markets are down,
Hmm.
but in the US and the UK, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? So what is driving these differences? Well, this update points to two main things.
Yeah.
One, we've got Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He's making some noise about tariffs again.
Right.
Two, everyone's holding their breath, waiting to see what happens with NVIDIA's earnings report.
Yeah.
What do you think is having a bigger impact?
Well, it's really interesting how Hong Kong, their market really reacts to any trade tensions with the U.S.
Right.
They always have. They're super sensitive to anything like that. But what makes it even more noteworthy this time is that Hong Kong shares were actually at a 3-year peak
Oh, wow.
before they took this dip. So it makes you wonder what's going to happen long term.
That is a great point. And speaking of long-term impacts, let's talk about NVIDIA.
Oh.
I mean, they're a giant.
Yeah.
In the tech world,
Absolutely massive.
would you say their chips are like the brains behind all this AI stuff that's blowing up right now?
Yeah, NVIDIA's earnings, they're a huge indicator for investment in the AI field. I mean, it's just exploding right now.
Yeah.
So if their numbers are good, it could mean that we're going to see continued growth, more confidence in tech.
Hmm.
But if they don't do well, that could send a waves of uncertainty
Right.
to the whole industry. Here and overseas,
Yeah.
it's like a big poker game with super high stakes.
Yeah.
And we're all watching, waiting to see who's going to fold first.
It makes you wonder if they're feeling the heat because there's a lot riding on them.
Oh, yeah.
But, the U.S. is holding its breath, right?
Right.
Waiting for NVIDIA. But the UK seems to be doing its own thing. They're playing it safe. Kind of a wait-and-see approach.
Right.
What do you think is behind that?
Well, the UK, they're in this kind of unique spot. They're still figuring out what Brexit really means long term. And they're tied to global trade really
Right.
closely. So, if the US or other big economies are wobbly, it makes sense that they'd be hesitant.
Yeah,
And I think it just shows how interconnected the world really is.
it does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something happens over there, and it affects how investors are behaving thousands of miles away.
It's like this tangled web in the global market, right?
Absolutely.
So let's try and make this real for a sec. Let's say you're going to go to Hong Kong
Okay.
soon. Does this dip in the market make you rethink your trip at all?
That's a good question.
Or maybe you've got some tech stocks that might be affected by what happens with NVIDIA.
Right.
How are you feeling about those? Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today. We saw Asian markets, especially Hong Kong.
Right.
They're reacting pretty strongly to any talk of trade issues. With the U.S., then in the U.S., we've got everybody biting their nails, waiting to see what NVIDIA's earnings report says. It could be a big sign
Right.
for the future of the tech sector. And over in the UK, they're being cautious,
Yeah.
watching what happens in the U.S. and keeping an eye on global trends.
Exactly. And I think this brings up a really interesting question.
Yeah.
If everything is this interconnected, does that mean trying to pick individual stocks is just not a good strategy anymore? Or does it actually mean it's even more important now to really get these global trends so you can make smart choices?
Yeah.
It's definitely something to think about as we try to figure out this crazy market.
For sure. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.